Sign it, Julia. You've always been the difficult one in this family, but today, for once in your life, be a decent daughter. My mother's voice was colder than the marble slab beneath her elbows. She slid a thick cream envelope trimmed in gold across the table paper that looked elegant on the outside and rotten underneath. We were in the VIP waiting lounge at St. Jude Hospital. Everything here was polished, quiet, expensive, and fake enough to make my skin crawl. On my mother's hand sat a 3-carat diamond ring my father had bought her years ago, back when he still believed she loved him. Now he was lying 3 glass walls away, hooked to machines, waiting for a $280,000 heart surgery that would decide if he lived or died. Beside her, my sister Sarah clutched a gold-plated pen. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying for hours. But I knew Sarah. Those weren't grief eyes. Those were mirror-practiced, perfect mascara-run eyes. I lowered my gaze to the document. Irrevocable power of attorney. Not a treatment authorization form. Not a medical consent. Not a billing approval. This was a document designed to strip me of decision-making power, access, control, and voice cleanly, legally, permanently. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. Not a call, not a text. A priority alert from my father's private banking monitor. I didn't need to check it. But I did. Unusual activity detected. Wire transfer pending. $285,000. Recipient. Cayman Trust Corp. I looked up. My mother stared at me like she'd already won. Sarah waited for me to crack. Both of them still thought I was plain Julia, the boring daughter, the stubborn one, the quiet one who didn't understand power. What they didn't know? The second my phone buzzed, the game changed hands. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't demand explanations. I opened the leather folder on my lap. And this time, I wasn't being cornered. I was the one who had opened the file. 4 days earlier, my father, Thomas Miller, collapsed in his home office from a massive cardiac episode. I was the one who called the ambulance, not my mother, not Sarah. When he went down, my mother was at a charity luncheon smiling for cameras with champagne in her hand. Sarah was in a meeting, her polished way of saying she was at a 3-hour lunch with her newest boyfriend. I held my father's hand in the ambulance while his oxygen dropped. I listened as the chief surgeon explained the procedure. Advanced, urgent, and requiring an immediate financial guarantee. Mayen. For most people, impossible. For my father, it was set aside long ago. He called it his survival reserve, his last armor against old age, bad luck, and betrayal. He once told me, "Money doesn't make people worse, Julia. It just reveals who they already are." This week, I finally understood that sentence. Because in the 48 hours after my father was sedated and intubated, my mother and Sarah didn't talk about treatment plans. They didn't meet the cardiology team. They didn't ask recovery rates. They were busy doing something else. Meeting with a private wealth manager in a hotel bar. Requesting account access. Digging through tax documents. Preparing paperwork. Not to save my father, to strip his estate clean. Before he woke up. Establishing Julia's expertise. In this family, I'd always been treated like the least impressive daughter. I didn't join the company. I didn't wear designer labels. I didn't collect magazine spreads and charity board titles. I worked a job my mother called painfully forgettable. I'm a senior forensic auditor for a global firm. Plain English. I follow the money people try to hide. Signatures, timestamps, IP addresses, shell companies, deleted messages, fraudulent transfers, altered records. I make a living finding the exact rot my mother and sister thought they could dress up and get away with. They underestimated me because I'm quiet. But in my line of work, the winner isn't the loudest. It's the one who stays calm the longest until there's enough evidence to end the game. That morning, before I was summoned to the VIP lounge, I received an email from Marcus, my father's personal banker. Marcus never panicked. If he reached out first, it meant something had already crossed a line. One sentence. "Julia, someone attempted to access your father's account this morning using an irregular digital signature. I believe you need to see this immediately." Attached. A screenshot. User. Sarah Miller. Device source. Hospital Wi-Fi. Action. Wire verification attempt. Amount. $285,000. Not $280,000. That extra $5,000 told me everything, greed padding itself. A skim off the top because they assumed no one would notice. If this was for Dad's surgery, the number would match. It didn't. They weren't trying to help him. They were trying to drain the survival reserve before the operating room even opened. In the worst case, they could delay the procedure. They could kill him with paperwork. Back to the VIP lounge. Julia, what exactly are you waiting for? My mother snapped. The doctors need paperwork. Stop being selfish. I looked up. Slow. What paperwork do they need, Mother? She blinked once. She didn't have a real answer. Sarah jumped in immediately, voice soft as honey, sharp as glass. It's paperwork to make sure Dad gets long-term premium care. You don't want him dumped in some public ward, do you? Too polished. Too rehearsed. And Sarah, while my father lay in ICU, was wearing a brand new Chanel suit. Cream tweed, pearl buttons, perfect tailoring. My father had been intubated for 4 days, and she somehow had time to shop for a costume. The room had an audience, 2 nurses, a hospital attorney, my father's oldest friend, Uncle Mike, people passing the hallway. My mother needed witnesses for her performance. Then she started crying. Not quiet, broken crying. Rhythmic, measured, loud enough for strangers to hear and assume she was the devastated wife being abused by her cold daughter. Oh my God, did I really raise someone this heartless? She sobbed. Sarah touched her shoulder lightly. Just sign it, Julia. Don't make this harder than it already is. A few years ago, that might have worked. Not today. Today I held out my hand. Fine. Their faces shifted instantly. If everyone agrees this is what's best for father. Sarah handed me the gold pen. The document lay in front of me like a knife wrapped in silk. I placed the pen to the page. And I signed, but not with my legal signature. Instead I wrote, Red Line 90. To anyone else, it looked like an odd flourish. To the people my father actually trusted, it meant one thing. This signature is under pressure. Freeze everything. Investigate fraud immediately. Years earlier, after a former associate tried to forge my father's name, he built a quiet emergency system, phrases and triggers that would never appear in normal paperwork. Red Line 90 was the highest level alarm. My mother and Sarah had no idea. Because despite their entitlement, they were never the people my father trusted most. The moment I finished writing it, Sarah snatched the papers. My mother dabbed her tears far too quickly. Triumph flashed between them, ugly, quick, confident. I'd given them what they thought they needed, and in return, they stepped into a trap already waiting. The grief vanished instantly. My mother stood so fast it was almost indecent, sliding the file into her crocodile handbag like prize money. Sarah checked her phone like she was racing a closing window. We have to get to the bank to... You stay here with Dad, Sarah added. We'll handle the financial side. Handle the financial side. A harmless phrase. An evil moment. Their Mercedes shot out of the hospital lot like someone else might get to the money first. Not like they were terrified of losing the man they claimed to love. I waited 10 seconds. Then I made the call. Augustus? A deep male voice answered, immediately, steady, precise. They're on their way. They'll be at the bank in 10 minutes. They're carrying the power of attorney, a $285,000 transfer request, and likely older forged support documents. Keyboard clicks on the other end. Understood, he said. Compliance is in position. The forensic finance team is standing by. And Julia. I'm listening. The trap is set. What I'd already done the night before. The second I got the first alert, I did 3 things. First, I moved the exact $280,000 into a monitored medical escrow account, linked directly to the hospital and authorized counsel. It could only be used for one purpose: saving my father's life. Second, I filed a legal hold at 6 a.m., a preservation order. Every access, attempt, signature record, email, authorization, transaction log locked and reviewable. Anyone interfering after that wasn't in a family dispute. They were tampering with preserved evidence. Third, I forwarded my findings to the bank's chief compliance officer, Augustus Hale. Augustus wasn't emotional. He was the nightmare version of accountability for people who think banking is just paperwork with nicer furniture. After reviewing logs, timestamps, signature deviations, access patterns, he said one sentence. Let them try again. This time, let them complete their own criminal file. That's the thing about white-collar crime. Wealth, status, a polished face, people think it makes crime invisible. Sometimes all it takes is one extra form, and the mask falls off. Sarah wasn't about to sign a transfer. She was about to sign her confession. The bank. I arrived 10 minutes after they did. Not through the main entrance. Executive garage. Private lift, glass-walled office above the VIP teller floor. One-way glass, perfect view. Sarah stood at desk, one chin high, confidence cheap and loud. My mother stood beside her, handbag clutched, eyes on the clock. No sorrow, no fear, only impatience. Sarah slapped the paperwork down. This is a priority transfer. I need it completed before clearing closes. The teller had been briefed. Her expression stayed professionally neutral. Of course, Miss Miller. For a transfer of this size, our procedure requires an additional signature on Form 109B, Declaration of Fund, Source and Intent. Sarah frowned. More paperwork? Standard procedure. The teller slid the form and pen across the desk. On the monitor beside Augustus, every camera feed was live. Forensics watched in real time. Every pen stroke would be scanned, time-stamped, location tagged, compared. Sarah skimmed the form or didn't read a word. Then she signed. Fast, confident, sloppy. Directly beneath. I swear under penalty of perjury that these funds are to be used for the medical care of Thomas Miller. My mother signed as witness. The moment the ink hit the page, Augustus placed one hand on the desk. That's it, he said. I didn't ask what he meant. I knew. If they'd stopped at emotional pressure in a hospital, they could still disguise it as family drama. But now it became a crime file. They had certified a false purpose for the transfer that is health, submitted paperwork involving forged signature elements, made a materially false declaration to a federally insured institution, attempted to move funds under legal hold. On the screen, Augustus pointed as the file populated. Receipt 1. Access logs exact IP address and device Sarah used to attempt verification from the hospital Wi-Fi. Receipt 2. Forensic signature analysis. 98% match between Sarah's digital signature and the forged signature on my father's tax documents last year. Receipt 3. Legal hold confirmation live at 6 a.m., meaning every action after was traceable and a direct violation. Sarah tapped her fingers on the counter, checking her watch like she was already spending money that didn't belong to her. I placed my hand on the glass door. Time for the performance to end. I walked onto the teller floor. My heels echoed across stone slow, deliberate. I stopped behind Sarah. Is there a problem here? My mother snapped at the teller. We have a surgery to pay for. Actually, Mother, I said. They turned so sharply it was almost violent. Sarah's face hit panic first, not anger. The look of someone who just heard a lock click behind them. The surgery was paid for last night, I said. I moved the full amount into a protected medical escrow account. No one can touch it for any other purpose. Sarah went pale. What did you do? She hissed. You had no right. I didn't do anything to you, Sarah. I just stopped you from touching what was never yours. I placed a blue folder on the counter. And this, I said, is what compliance would like to ask you about. Sarah reached for it instinctively, but the teller pulled it out of reach. I opened the folder. Page 1. Signature comparison analysis. Page 2. Access logs. Page 3. Wire creation history. Page 4. Marcus's warning email. I slid the first page toward Sarah. Your signature on this transfer request is a 98% digital match to the forged signature used on Dad's tax documents last year. Would you like to explain that here or to investigators? The lobby went dead silent. If you're still with me, type "Recips" in the comments, because this is where the truth stopped whispering and started speaking out loud. Augustus came down from the glass office upstairs. He wasn't alone. 2 men in dark suits followed credentials that didn't belong to the bank. Sarah took a half step back. My mother pivoted instantly into victimhood, because that's what people like her do when volume fails. She's lying, my mother shouted. She's trying to steal from her own family. She's attacking her own mother. Augustus didn't even look at her. He delivered a prepared statement in a tone so cold it felt surgical. All accounts associated with these social security numbers are now under fraud hold. The bank has detected a red line emergency code on the power of attorney submitted today. All transactions are suspended pending investigation. Fraud hold. Sarah's face drained of color. That was the moment she realized something she'd missed all day. I hadn't signed to surrender. I'd signed to mark them. Around us, private clients quietly raised their phones. Rich people are discreet about their own scandals, but never about someone else's. Sarah, the golden daughter of galas and glossy family photos, was unraveling in a dozen 4K videos. She turned to me, panic finally real. Julia, you can't do this to your family. I looked at her. Years of being dismissed. mocked, reduced, ignored, and I didn't even feel anger anymore. I felt clarity. Family? I said quietly. Family doesn't drain a man's surgery fund while he's still breathing through a machine. I opened another folder. Printed emails. Appointment logs. Surveillance stills from the hotel bar. A summary of suspicious transactions over 2 years. Luxury purchases hidden in business accounts. Transfers to shell companies. Jewelry billed as company expenses. Renovations for Sarah's penthouse disguised as property maintenance. Small withdrawals spaced carefully enough to go unnoticed. Unless the person reviewing them was me. I didn't argue with you at the hospital, I said. I opened the file. I held the papers up where Sarah could see. I have emails of you and Mom discussing how to drain the pond before the old man flatlines. I have recordings from devices in Dad's office. I have access logs, bank records, card statements, tax documents. My mother lunged like she wanted to slap me. One of the men stepped between us before she could raise her arm. Then I heard it. Click. Handcuffs opening. The taller investigator held up his ID. Eleanor Miller. Sarah Miller. We are investigators with the district attorney's white-collar crime unit. You are being detained in connection with grand larceny, bank fraud, and conspiracy. Sarah started hyperventilating. My mother began screaming. No one stepped in to help them. Because money can buy lawyers and dinners and public smiles. But it can't buy its way out of a complete evidentiary file with timestamps attached. As they were let out, my mother twisted around, hatred sharp enough to cut skin. You've ruined us, she screamed. We are your family. Sarah sobbed so hard mascara streaked down her brand new Chanel. I bent down and picked up the gold pen. She dropped the same pen they handed me in the hospital, the one they thought would finish me. I rolled it once between my fingers. No, I said. I didn't ruin anyone. I set the pen beside the sealed evidence packet. Your own signatures did that. If you believe silence hits harder when it comes with proof, hit like because the quietest person in the room is sometimes the one holding the evidence that changes everything. Aftermath. My father's surgery happened the next morning. I sat outside the operating room holding a cup of coffee that went cold in my hands. For the first time in days, I wasn't tracking transactions. I was just a daughter, waiting to hear if her father would survive. Uncle Mike sat beside me the whole time, saying almost nothing, just a hand on my shoulder now and then. Then the surgeon walked out. Mask lowered. The surgery was successful. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there shaking, realizing that for the first time in days, something finally went right. 3 days later, my father woke up. I didn't start with the arrests. I handed him a tablet and opened the folder. Account logs, wire attempts, signature analysis, every piece of evidence. He read slowly. And the longer he read, the quieter he became. Not shouting, not rage. Just the heavy silence of a man realizing he'd been betrayed by the people closest to him. He didn't say a word. He just reached over and squeezed my hand. A week later, he signed a new will. No drama, no performance, his attorney. A doctor confirming his condition. Clarity. He named me sole trustee of the Miller estate. I didn't ask for it, and I didn't celebrate it, because some victories don't feel like victories. Sometimes they feel like the moment you finally stop lying to yourself about the truth. When I opened the financial records from the last 2 years, the missing money went far beyond $285,000. Luxury purchases disguised as business expenses. Transfers to shell entities. Renovations billed as maintenance. A slow bleed planned, measured, cruel. I oversaw the liquidation of Sarah's penthouse so the money could be repaid. And I'll never forget walking through that apartment, tagging designer furniture, cataloging jewelry, labeling everything for sale. Because once you really open the file, you always find more than you expected. Today, I'm back at the hospital. The machines are quiet. My father is breathing on his own. And for the first time in days, the silence doesn't feel terrifying. It feels peaceful. I sit beside him and watch his hand resting on the blanket. The same hand that built his company. The same hand that signed million-dollar deals. The same hand that used to rest on my head when I was a kid hiding from my mother's anger. And I realized something. For years I thought surviving people like my mother and Sarah meant becoming louder than them. Colder. More ruthless. I was wrong. I didn't need to be louder. I needed to be more prepared. More patient. And hold the one thing they never had. The truth. Because in the end, the person who wins isn't the one who performs best. It's the one who can open the file and bring the receipts My mother and Sarah are still sitting in county jail waiting for their hearing. And the most ironic part? They tried to request bail money from my father's account. The answer came back immediately. No argument, no discussion. Declined. Just like the wire transfer. Just like every attempt they made to turn greed into entitlement. And me? I'm still here. Sitting beside the father who almost lost his life because the people closest to him confused access with ownership. I didn't win because I was lucky. I won because I never let emotion erase evidence. I didn't have to scream. I just let them sign their own mistake. Because in the end, I didn't destroy them. Their own signatures did. If you believe the truth always leaves a paper trail, subscribe for more stories where the receipts win.